And anyway, I don't want to get camped out there because we've been there before. We want to move on. So he goes on to say to do those things which are not fitting, not convenient. Verse 29. Well, let me read verse 28 from the extended Greek. And so since they did not see fit to acknowledge God or approve of him, or consider him worth the knowing. Y'all know anybody like that? Y'all know any people like that? Don't consider God worth the knowing. Oh yeah, there's a lot of them. There's a whole pile of people right now this morning who don't consider God worth the knowing, because if they did consider God worth the knowing, most all of our churches would be full. Amen. They didn't consider God worth the knowing. God gave them over to a base and condemned mind to do things not proper or decent, but loathsome. Now that's the extended Greek. Verse 29, I'll read that from the extended Greek too before we go into the rest of it. Until they were filled, permeated, and saturated with every kind of unrighteousness, iniquity, grasping, and covetous greed and malice. They were full of envy and jealousy, murder, strife, deceit, and treachery, ill will, and cruel ways. They were secret backbiters and gossipers. Being filled, in the Greek, that means to fill up, complete. Being filled with all unrighteousness. Now, what I'm going to do as I go through these verses and try to break all of these things down he's listing here. We're going to take it one word at a time and see what the Greek says and see how that applies to us. I talked about, of course, breaking this thing down. We're really going to be breaking it down today. But because we want to get every nuance of what Paul is saying to us today in our day and time, because it still applies. So they were filled, they were complete with all unrighteousness. Again, in the Greek, that means every vice contrary to justice and righteousness. They were full of it. They were completely filled with all kinds of wickedness and debased things and debased thinking and all these things. And every vice contrary to justice and righteousness. Being filled with all unrighteousness. And he begins his list here. Sexual immorality. Now, the word fornication is used in the King James Version. Fornication in the Greek is the Greek word. Now, I'm not going to tell you all the Greek words in everything because I don't expect you to remember it. No way. I have Greek context or concordances and things like that, and I can look these things up. And you can too, but most of us don't remember the word. But some of them I will point out because it's very important. The Greek word for fornication is the word porneia. You know what's derived from that word. The Greek word porneia, where we get our word pornography. Porn, in short. It means unlawful sex sins of single and married people. It means adultery of married or single people. It means incest. It means idolatry and adultery in honor of idol gods, natural harlotry or spiritual harlotry, sodomy, and male prostitution are all entailed in that one word, porneia. Listen, we know, again, in this nation, many women, mostly men, but there's many women that are falling prey to it now. The sin of pornography has invaded the church to the point where you have pastors and you have leaders who are in bondage mostly to their computers nowadays. They don't go out, they have to go out and buy magazines now. To their computers, they can pull up these porn sites and websites that have all these things, and it's them in the privacy of their office or home or wherever they are. And so many of them now are confessing nowadays that they are or were in bondage to this thing. Let me tell you, evidently, pornography ain't something new. As a matter of fact, I saw a friend of mine, a pastor friend of mine up in Iowa, I believe it is. And he showed this picture on Facebook. It was a picture of some sculptures that are outside on the lawn of a Methodist hospital. Okay? A Methodist hospital have 4 sculptures, these buck naked women, on the lawn of the hospital, Methodist hospital, on the lawn, who are kind of like they're dancing around a circle, and they're nude, they're in the buff, and they were sculpted that way. And so he brought up the question, why on earth would a hospital, and especially one that's supposed to be a Christian hospital, why would they have such a sculpture and call it art? That's where, people on the thread were saying, well, it's art. Why come people can't appreciate the human body? It's art. I said, look, that's the same, I told him, I said, that's the same spirit of Rome and Greece. Back in that day, they didn't have computers, they didn't have magazines, so their pornography was sculpted. And a little bit later, people started calling it art. There's a Greek word for that. You know what the Greek word is? I know. Charlotte's done good. She already knows what this Greek word is. She remembers this well. The Greek word is another Greek word is hogwash. Hogwash. It's pornography. Plain and simple. It's the spirit of pornography. But you know why these statues were erected? The excuse they used to erect them? Because there was some life flight, a life flight nurse or a couple of life flight people who were killed in a crash. They were on their way to or from a flight. They were killed in a crash. And so they said to honor their memory. And I'm thinking, were these people publicly into pornography? Or, how is that honoring someone who died in that kind of service? I don't get that. I'm sure there's more to the story, I guess, that I don't understand, but I probably still, if I had the whole story, I probably still wouldn't understand it. And like I told him on the thread, I said, that's just the spirit of Rome and Greece. They sculpted all their nudity and their naked bodies and everything, and they called it art, but it was pornography.